Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for our video channel. Thanks for being here. This is a twofer day. We're going to see how good these work out. On this last Sunday, it didn't work out too well. I put a video up for a missing person and a video up for letters. And letters got about 1/3 the views of the missing people. And the missing people, it seems like the people that normally would watch the missing person segment went over and watched the letter segment. So I lost people on that. So I'm not sure how this is working out, separating them. Letters, I don't know if we're going to stay because we're not getting the viewership out of it right now. We'll give it a little bit of a run. But here we go. Twofer day. 2 videos in 1 day. I'm pushing for you. First letter. Hey Dave, we haven't met, but I wrote you a while ago about the lady living in the South American mountain village sharing her mountain lakes with machines that came from the water. Listen to your Pat McGuire story today. Sorry to hear that your family has reacted to you the way they have. It's heartbreaking to hear. I would encourage you to bear this burden, and I wish you strength to persevere. Your work is a gift to many experiencers and an enlightenment to family and friends looking for answers. You provide a sense of community and shared experiences. There are thousands of us, and I thank you. I have more stories to share, and so I hope we do one day. Hang in there, good buddy, and stay the fight. What I would encourage you to do during these segments where I'm reading letters, turn this on, turn it up loud, and go do housework. Go do things you have to do that you can just listen in the background. Because I'm a pretty boring person to just look at while I'm reading letters. But here we go. The next one. Hey Dave, first of all, thank you so much for all you do for us. You're an appreciative audience. I've been a villager for 3 years now and pay your YouTube channel, websites, books, and movies forward to anyone who will listen. I've purchased several of your books and your latest film, Missing 411, The UFO Connection, enjoying all of them immensely, just as with your video segments. So let me first say thank you. Thank you, everybody that watches and participates. I'll try to keep this short, and you may have already addressed this film and subject in one of your video segments, one which I haven't seen yet, but I was wondering if you would please be so kind as to shine a light on recently released film Sound of Freedom, if that request meets with your approval, of course. I'm contemplating whether I should do a segment on it or not. I'll let you know. I'd seen the film twice last week, on the 3rd and the 5th, and was surprised to see that both showings were nearly sold out, despite both viewings being at 3:20 on Monday and Wednesday. This is a film which is very powerful, profound, and enlightening. It is handled gracefully and examines a sensitive subject, pedophilia, with a keen and observant eye, shedding light on a monstrous, grotesque, and vile situation which our children, parents, families, society, country, and world are facing today. This is a film which every good, decent, and kind person in the world should see, especially parents, and if they're old enough, young adults. Fortunately, the film doesn't present any stomach-churning scenes of rape, torture, and mutilation, with the sexual abuse only being hinted at, but not shown. Thankfully. Yeah, thankfully. Just as with your films, more films like this need to be produced and then seen by a worldwide audience, particularly here within America, where the consumption of pedophilia is the highest. This is an industry which generates a $34 billion profit domestically and $150 billion internationally. I've donated 7 tickets through the Pay It Forward program, which the studio is supporting, and plan on purchasing the DVD when it comes out. Everything that you see within this film really happened, and it was filmed at the actual locations at which the events happened. God bless you, Tim Ballard, Jim Cavalier, Eduardo Vestugi, and all other courageous, compassionate, and heroic heroes who have fought for justice in the past, present, and future. If there was ever a time for heroes, this is the time. It's an excellent film. Lastly, my daughter works as a behavior therapist at a psychiatric hospital in North Carolina. In knowing that I'm a big fan of you and your work, she told me that she'd overheard one of the patients there discussing with the staff personnel how your mental health suggestions have proven helpful. God bless you, Angie and Huck, and thank you for all you do for us, your grateful audience. Well, thank you. You know, life is weird. Sometimes we never know. We never know if we help anybody. Sometimes we never see those people personally. I hope I do help people, because life would be pretty meaningless if we went through it and we didn't help each other in some way. I think we are here to help each other. We all have different skill sets, different abilities, different senses. And if we can help someone through a rough part of their life, that's huge. That is huge. Next one. Hey, Dave. Anyway, on the issue of Skinwalker Ranch, people miss or are not aware that there are vortexes. There are vortexes everywhere. Running water creates an energy field. High concentration of iron, lead, silver, copper, may even gold creates certain electromagnetic energy fields that are extra-dimensional or alternative reality beings use. You can see a vortex in the ground by how the clouds are. It can be found on the ground with dowsing rods. There are positive and negative vortexes. In negative vortexes, I might be spelling it wrong. In the negative ones, nothing grows. But in both places, people must never build homes. There are areas of constant elemental chaos, constant chaos. Though positive vortexes can be healing, one cannot stay there in a prolonged period of time, and no one must ever have a ceremony or be close to a vortex, a negative one. Skinwalker Ranch is a negative vortex. A dowser can find underground rivers creating great magnetic currents, and also correlate the vortex to that energy. Also find great iron or metal deposits that affect Earth's magnetic pole. But maybe other worldly or earthly beings may have also put something on the Earth that creates magnetic nature of things they use for travel, or otherwise it may be related to interdimensional travel. Who knows? But it's fun to talk about. And I guess that missing factor in vortex and magnetic phenomena is resonance, vibration. Maybe the government shuts up the Skinwalker Ranch thing because they don't want the secret exposed. Who knows? Thanks, Dave. That's interesting food for thought. Who knows? I don't know. We don't know. Next one. Greetings, Dave. My husband and I are very busy, so needed to get caught up with the UFO, UAP, etc. I can't tell you how heart-shaking the Class 2 video was in the UFOs. I've struggled for years with this. Small town, Washington State, on or about July, August 65. Myself and my girlfriend were being led on a horse by my neighbor's boy. Bareback was not ideal for two 15-year-old girls giggling and wiggling as we went along. I'll never forget that evening. As we approached the gate to my house, which was on the edge of an old country highway, no traffic to speak of, and about 1,000 yards above the river, peaceful and quiet. David, honestly, as my girlfriend was getting herself and me off balance, I happened to look up. Above us, and above the power line, just a wee bit up the hill from us, was a cigar-shaped something. A UFO with red and green, slow flashing lights. Something to be rotating around the object as if on a loop, like an LED colored lights. How do I know UFO? It was unidentified and a flying object. As a kid, I got that. Ka-ching. There was no noise, at least not until we screamed and we freaked and fell sideways off that horse. Ooh, that hurt. As we dusted off, I saw the object was still there, slowly moving along, but then with shocking speed disappeared. Never said a word about it to my folks when I went in for the night. But as I did every night, I lay on my bed by my window and watched the stars. I was a gazer, a star child in my mind. always watching occasional airplanes and all 2 satellites of that era, perhaps Sputnik. The next morning I came downstairs to the sound of coffee percolating, stepdad's cream of wheat, and the regular sounds of the morning news coming over the radio. I sat down just as the newsman started reading about a UFO seen over Hood River, Oregon. By car, Hood River would have been 75 miles from where we saw the object. The news said it was spotted at 7:30. Also noted there was no noise. I instantly fell into nervous tears. Seriously, tears just jumped out. Noticed by my stepdad, I questioned, and when I confessed to seeing the same thing, he told me to stop with it. He didn't want to hear it. When I got off the school bus that morning, I rushed to my friends and told them what we saw over by Hood River about 30 minutes later. They acted dumb and denied ever seeing it. David, it's been a long wait. What a wait. I'm now 73. I finally feel vindicated about what I saw because of what you read to us about the shape of UFOs. Although that girlfriend has been my best friend and sister, if you will, since 53, she still denies such a thing happened. I'm still stardust, a star child watching the sky with my husband. We lived in Hell's Canyon wilderness for years, and for years, with only darkness engulfing us, we saw a busy skyway of highway above. Completely amazing. My husband always believed my story was true, and after hearing your words tonight, he rejoiced with me. Finally, my secret is out to another believer. Thank you for your research, David. A weight has been lifted. No. Thank you. I believe you 100%. But here's what I ask. Because I'm always around UFO people and Bigfoot people. And her observation was 50 plus years ago, 60 years ago. A cigar-shaped object. No obvious propulsion, jet engine, propeller. So it had to be anti-gravity. Why would it have flashing lights? Why? UFOs wouldn't need it. But what if, just what if our government had that technology? And in order for people to think it's a helicopter at distance, maybe even a plane, they put on the flashing lights like an airplane has. Because why in the world would a normal UFO from another world, another dimension, another portal need flashing lights? Think about that. To her, it was a UFO, it is a UFO. And I'm not demeaning her observation 1%. I'm just saying, what if? New letter. Hey Dave, one night back in the early 90s, I went fishing on Lake Pleasant outside of Phoenix. It was a weekday night. I arrived to find nobody on the lake. I remember a giant harvest moon rising over the hills. Not having any luck, I decided to keep moving further up the lake in and out of coves. I cast 5 times, 3 to 9 o'clock. If no hits, I move on. A little hint for new fishermen. 3 to 9 o'clock. Standing on a boat. You want to cover every alley on the lake or the river. So you start casting at 3 o'clock. Move to 2 o'clock. Move to 1 o'clock. Move to noon. Move to 11 p.m. So you cover 180-degree radius so you don't miss a fish. Lesson number 1 on fishing. I had a Coleman Skidoo plastic square transom with a 6 horsepower Husqvarna gas motor. I pulled into the next cove and my motor stopped. I was then hit with a blinding light from above. No sound. So stop right there. Nothing in our known world would stop a motor from above. But a lot of UFO abductees claim their motor in their car stops and then they're abducted. I tried to look up, but it was too bright to see the source of the light. I thought time to boogie, but my motor wouldn't start. This motor never needed more than 2 pulls to come to life. I decided to look up again, but again, I couldn't see the shape, height, any detail of source. I then found myself smiling at it and realized pretty quick that wasn't so smart, so I refused to look up again and started paddling back towards the launch. The light followed for a moment and then went dark. I looked up and there was nothing but stars. I pulled the starter rope and the engine came to life. I went full throttle back to the launch, pulled the canoe out of the water and onto the trailer. Suddenly, a wind came up, and I mean a strong wind that almost pulled the canoe out of my hands. It was calm again. Like I said, I was alone on the lake. I never heard or saw what lit me up, and I got the heck out of there. I didn't call or tell anybody about this for years, and I doubt anybody believed me anyway. I think they come here for water, and I didn't expect anybody to be on that lake at that hour. I've often wondered if they have these tractor beam abilities, why I wasn't taken. And I wasn't for at least have no memory of it, and doubt they could have dropped me back into my canoe without me knowing it. So anyway, if you have any thoughts on this and have a moment to share it, hit me up by return mail and let me know. I will tell you this. There's a lot of stories of people on lakes seeing UFOs. A lot. If you just Google that, you'll find it. There's a couple in Upper New York that I know about. And there's others that are people in deep wilderness that it's happened to. I'm glad it hasn't happened to me because I think it would shake me up. Thanks for the story. Hey Dave, I sent this message through your website and wasn't sure if you received those messages as often or not, so I decided to send direct. I'm a frequent listener. And he sent this to the normal email I give to anybody, canammissing@yahoo.com. Like Canadian American, canammissing@yahoo.com. I have a lot of different experiences occurred throughout my 40 years of life. Some of those being demonic and a whole lot of them with God. It's crazy to me to think that some people even have skepticism towards a spiritual realm, which is always in full swing around us, literally 24/7. And people are just so naive to it. I love studying the Word of God and who Jesus is and how He can live and operate through us when we know we are in Him. I find the topic of UFOs, UAPs, cryptids, etc. to be very interesting, but I always make sure I'm not holding any of that above God and focusing more on Him than anything. I think that's especially important in this arena because there's so much going on with connecting with the spiritual realm that can be dangerous when dabbling in certain areas. Jesus has empowered us with authority to speak against everything that the enemy of God is constantly at work on. And it's so much, my friend, including everything your work is based upon. I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying that the subject you cover is. I don't know what exactly you believe, but I know I've heard you mention God in prayer, but I'm just well aware there are many gods people pray to, but there's only one Jesus that can restore us back to Father, and He's the only one we receive salvation from. Next letter. Hey Dave, I want to tell you about a very strange, almost abduction or missing person event with my daughter. Now that I'm a retired civil engineer, I have the time to write about strange and odd events that I've seen. My hobby is mineral collecting, rockhound. Back in the summer of 2015, I took a trip to Colorado to collect crystals with my daughter. That would be a good time. Always taking your son and daughter with you is great. Our camping location was the Blue Mountain National Forest campground near Lake George, Colorado, not New York. Lake George, Colorado is a very famous to rockhounds mineral collecting location. The geology of this area is all granite and pegmatites, containing large smoky quartz, aquamarine, amazonite, topaz crystals, and other rare minerals. The campground is near Lake George and other small lakes. Something you probably don't know about me. When I was a kid, I had a huge rock collection and fossil collection, and it was a blast. My dad would take me and we'd go out and look around. We found some great fossils, actually in a town right near where we lived, up in Palo Alto in the hills. It was fun. I remember it. I had shelves in my room that had all kinds of rocks and minerals on them. Anyhow, the National Forest campground was at 8,000 feet in a pine forest. I'd gone to bed in our trailer a ways away from the campfire, but my daughter was still up in the forest outside of the campfire light looking at the stars. It was summer solstice. I heard her scream, and I ran up the hill to find her. But then she was at the picnic table by the campfire, totally frightened and could hardly talk. Eventually she calmed down and said up in the forest, an entity of some sort the size of a human had touched and pushed her, and she screamed. She said the entity had the brightest white light she had ever seen. That's all she wanted to say about it. I asked her to write about what happened, but she said she didn't want to do it. Strange, because she is a very good writer with a degree from ASU in journalism. Just after we both headed down to the trailer or bed, a very large and loud military-type aircraft flew very low over our campsite. We think it was military because no private pilot in their right mind would fly that low in the middle of the night, complete darkness at treetop level. The next day we drove east to a barite crystal site. We are serious rockhounds. On the way back we saw another large military-type aircraft flying very low near our NFS campground. We don't know of any specific UFO reports in this area. No more paranormal incidents, just camping and crystal collecting. The reason I think that this event was a near abduction or near missing person was, number one, my daughter's genetics are Danish and Northern European. She is very intelligent. The geology of our campsite is all granite. There is water nearby, Lake George, and an open pit mine. The brilliant white light of the entity and in the overwhelming fear that it caused my daughter, she doesn't scare easily. 7, the great reluctance of my daughter to talk about or write about this important event until now. The current Dr. Greer UFO hearings finally got my daughter to talk more about this event, 7 years after it happened. The reason I'm writing this to you is to find out if what I believe was a near-miss abduction or missing person incident has happened to other people that you know of. Sorry about the long email, but I wanted to get all the facts out. Since I don't know the entire event, because your daughter's refusal to talk about it, there's really not enough there to decipher what she saw. A white light. What else did she saw that she didn't want to talk about? What did the entity look like? How long did this happen? Was there missing time? Did she suffer any consequences physically after it? Has she had incidents since? I don't understand, because her background is Danish and Northern European. To me, that means nothing on the abduction side, so I'm not sure how that played into this or why you even said it. As far as Dr. Greer's hearings, Greer's undoubtedly a smart man. He has one huge fault. He thinks that all aliens are good. I don't know anybody else that thinks that. Evidence doesn't show it. Facts don't show it. So anyhow, that's all I'll say about Dr. Greer. Next letter. Hello, Mr. Paulides. I really enjoy your YouTube videos and broadcasts on Coast to Coast and other podcasts. I recently purchased your Missing 411 hat, wear it proudly, hoping to get recognized by someone who asked me what it stands for, but not so far. I also purchased your book on Bigfoot, Wildmen, and Giants. My sister and I read that while visiting her in eastern Ohio, which is home to the Grassman. I shared an experience on an event in my home state in PA. Now I want to share a missing time event my family had 40 years ago. I have an identical twin brother, and we were in high school at the time. We had the same homeroom and shared some classes and lunch throughout the day. That day, our homeroom teacher handed us absentee slips to fill out for our being absent the day before. We were both dumbfounded because we had no recollection of having not been in school that day. We said we had made a mistake and we were in school, but he was adamant we were not. Students seated near us corroborated his claim that we weren't there. Now we had no idea where we would have been and could not imagine what we would have done had we not been in school. But we also couldn't remember what we did the day before. It was a blank. I had a very vague memory of entering school for the last class, but I don't know if I did or didn't. We talked to some friends in school, and they said we were not in school that day and wanted to know where we went. We had no idea. Other teachers asked about where we were, and we had the belief that we had been in school, but nobody remembered us being there. But we also couldn't recall any events that happened in school. I can remember cutting a first English class the year before to avoid not having to write an assignment. I made up a story about forgetting my paper and walking back home to get it, just enough time to miss that first class. The school called our house because I had talked my brother into also cutting class, and the school checked up on us. Needless to say, we got in trouble more from our parents, but they bought the story. Did the school call home this particular day? I don't know. I don't think so. Our father was retired at the time due to health conditions. He was a World War II vet in his 60s and would normally give us a ride to school since he had the free time. And our school bus was overcrowded. When we got home, we asked him if he had taken us to school, and he was positive he did. We gave our parents the absentee slips and asked them if our family had gone somewhere that day before. We just couldn't remember. My parents and grandmother, who lived with us, should have remembered had we stayed home, but they were sure we went to school. But we had thought so too. Now I wondered if maybe all of us had a false memory and something else happened. My mother called the school and talked to the vice principal, your stereotypical tough guy disciplinarian, was adamant we had not gone to school. I talked to him the next day, and he said not to worry about it. Now that was strange. Honestly, one theory I entertained was that maybe the students were taken and had their memories erased for a day, and this happened to others for the same purpose. I had no idea. It bothers me to this day because I still have no idea what happened, except for two things which I can link to the event. I remember getting angry when talking to my parents about the absentee slips, like I was violated and somebody had done something to my brother and me, or maybe all of us. But then I thought popped into my head, and I had better not press the issue or something bad might happen to us. Like it was almost a post-hypnotic suggestion that if we could be grabbed and abducted and have our memories tampered with, they could do nothing they wanted to. Who was they? I didn't know. The government? Aliens? I still don't know. Years later, I had the same angry feeling when I remembered what happened back then. I wrote about it online and had a troubling psychological reaction afterwards. For months, I got this feeling that when I went home, I might find somebody waiting for me. Yes. I got a little paranoid, made sure the doors were locked when I was home alone. Months later, my mom said she had a dream that men came to the house at night and were asking for my brother, but we were gone at work. That was unsettling. Almost done. I said this would be a long read, but I'd try to include anything related that I could remember. Now, about this time in school, I remember waking up one morning naked. Somehow I had taken off my pajamas in my sleep and tossed them on the floor. I wondered about that, and I thought, oh yeah, my clothes fell off when I phased out at the window. But I also thought maybe I had been drugged and examined in my sleep. Someone entered the house. Again, I have no idea how that happened. Maybe I just took off my pajamas in my sleep, but I'd never done that before. So, I want everyone to understand something. There have been people who have been abducted, who have reported their clothes missing. Yeah, that has happened. And these people had gone through massive examination, prodded, poked. There's thousands of these stories. These people have been violated. How can Dr. Greer claim that all these aliens are innocent, good things? As smart as Greer is, I don't understand his thinking on this. Is he calling all these people a liar? Come on. I mean, there have been great psychiatrists who have written about this and have found evidence that the people were telling the truth, that there was some type of mass abduction occurring. I don't get it. Do I believe this man? Of course I do. Because I've heard hundreds of stories similar to this over the years. And I hope and I pray that in the near future, like in the next week or so, that the congressional hearings get disclosure. Do I think it's going to happen? Yeah, maybe in some level. But until Congress and the Senate enact laws that outlaw withholding of information for any reason, this is going to keep going on. Because the black budgets in our government are meant to deceive and withhold. That's really what they're there for. They don't want to tell you what they're doing with the money. And sometimes if they do tell you what they're doing with the money, they're going to lie about it. So be patient and pray for the people in our government, because those people are trying hard for you. Some of them are, not all of them. So anyhow, a two for a day. Letters and a missing person segment. Hope you liked it. If you do, give us 2 thumbs up. Please put this on your social media. And go out and do something for someone, somewhere. Make somebody's day. Karma is important. Paulides out.